Hello, YouTubers. Glad to have everybody with me here on the 17th day of November 2016 on Thursday, 1 week from today's Thanksgiving. And a big turkey on the table. Hopefully it's the kind that's cooked. We got a lot of news for you today. I should start it out by saying, hey, have I got news for you? There's a lot of it, so we're going to jump right into it. The first one, this is off of msfanpage.com, or .link, I guess, and it starts out saying, Sheriff Clark just received game-changing news. Trump just elected him for hanging. Actually, anything yet. But he has got him up for the secretary to the Department of Homeland Security. And the way this reads is, in a wonderful turn of events, Clark became an early backer for President-elect Trump's campaign and ended up delivering a stirring speech on Trump's behalf at the Republican National Convention. Now that Trump is cabinet, there is a strong speculation that Trump will recognize Clark's leadership qualities and appoint him to a crucial position. When the Politico asked, or try that again. When the site Politico listed its possibilities for Trump's different cabinet positions, Clark was the only name they had listed for Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Said the site, one person close to Trump's campaign said David Clark, the conservative sheriff of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, is a possible candidate for Homeland Security Secretary. Do you think Clark would be a great choice? That article for you. I do think that it would be nice for that man to get some recognition for all the work that he's done. The next one that we have here is off of regated.com, and it says mainstream media is still up to no good. The humiliating beating mainstream media took with Trump's victory, they're still spinning yarns and trying to act like they have any credibility left. Received breaking news alert on my phone from CNN. The alert, which appeared across the top of my cell phone screen and gave off 3 short, powerful vibrations, wasn't really breaking news. The alert essentially reported it was like a knife fight within the Trump administration's 2017 transition team, with wildfire tearing across Georgia and daily protests that dissolved into riots springing up against the mere possibility of a Trump presidency. This is the best mainstream media has to offer us. An unsourced anonymous allegation against the Trump administration that they want us to take as fact. Last night, CNN baffled that Trump ate dinner. David Markosco reported that the president of the Women's Association called Trump's actions unacceptable. Establishment or the White House has gotten the memo quite yet. Mainstream media, you're out. How dare Trump try to get a private reserve moment after fighting in an extreme, unparalleled election season? How dare he? The only people with that train of thought are the pundits, not the people who voted Trump. There's still a blatant disconnect between the media and the populace. The pundits just don't get it, and I doubt they ever will. Speaking of pundits, Juliana Goldman of CBS Evening News about the Trump team requesting top secret security clearance for the Trump's children. President Trump took to Twitter to say that this claim was false and that the report was just another typically false news story. But now Donald Trump is used to the media bias and lies. Just another day in the life. And I do have an article in this pile somewhere here about President-elect Trump having dinner. It was rather comical. Let's see if I can find it, and I'll go ahead and pull that up here and read that one. Let's see. There we go. Let me go ahead and read this one. Okay, this is off of regated.com. And it says, CNN baffled that Trump eats dinner. The mainstream media and Donald Trump's private press pool are stunned because he chose to go out to dinner without letting them know. Seriously? Headlines flashed on CNN earlier this evening displaying that Trump goes out to dinner tonight with the subtitle "Breaking News." Panelists on the network claimed that it was the sacrosanct in the news media to not let journalists know where the future leader of the free world was at all times. Journalists claim that once they discovered Trump had left his residence, they were not allowed access to the 21 Club that he was at, and instead given a location behind the dumpsters to report from. They should have been in the dumpsters. A reporter from NBC New York even tried to skirt the system by making a reservation at the restaurant to eat. However, NBC News' Haley Jackson, who made a reservation at the restaurant, reports Trump was dining inside with his wife Melania, and that the Secret Service agents moved to block her view of them. The article goes on to admit that the White House depends on having journalists nearby at all times to replay the president's first comments on breaking news. They're correct, though. It's Trump's absolute responsibility to let the press pool know exactly how well done his steak was cooked while at dinner, right? Received a standing ovation from the restaurant's guests when he arrived to eat his steak. Cheers at Keen's Steakhouse for at real Donald Trump. Pic.twitter.com, and then there's some numbers after that if you want to pull this article up and read that. It says, when the words breaking news become synonymous with president-elect going out to dinner, then the words breaking news become not at all news-like. Donald Trump has an obligation to let the press pool know if he's going to go out to dinner with his family nearby, president-elect or not. He deserves enough privacy to be able to grab some food without making international breaking news headlines. That was just amazing. I mean, the press would think that they have any whatsoever, that they would have any right to know what that man's doing after the way he's been treated. I can't make this stuff up. He just stymies the imagination. Next article that I have for you is of the Common Sense Show. And this one says, much ado has been made about, well, let's see, let's start with the title of it. Censorship has come to America. That's the title of it. It says, much ado has been made about the allegations of fake news being leveled against the independent media, often referred to as the alternate media, and they're as self-appointed demogonists who is to protect the people from the truth. Google and Facebook, in effect, have promised to ban and block the sites of any organization that they do not politically agree with. Their strategy is to label websites as fake news. Of course, not any definitive and identifying characteristics of what constitutes a fake news site. Simply put, if Facebook and Google do not like your brand of freedom and express the tenets of freedom while exposing criminal behaviors, your site will be banned and blocked. Have stated that they have a duty to protect the public from fake news that altered this year's general election. In other words, Facebook and Google's favorite criminal, Hillary Clinton, lost, and these two entities are engaged in making sure this does not happen again. Google want complete control over everything that the people read, watch, and hear. Why? Because it is a new world order inspired by Satan, which is dedicated to the eradication of all freedom and the stand-alone existence of any state or any nation state. Google and Facebook plan to also go after all Christians, a nation much greater than what we have seen to date. The name of Jesus is forbidden word among organizations such as Facebook and Google. There are fake news agencies on the planet to deceive the people prior to enslaving them by stealth advantage of their collective ignorance. It stands in the way of enslaving people's minds prior to enslaving their bodies. The real fake news takes place in the upper levels of the New World Order and filters down to your local newspaper as well as your radio television stations. Serves the New World Order And this is why decipher and predictive programming has become a valuable tool in understanding what's coming. The real fake news, globalist-elect David Rockefeller provides very valuable clues as to who the real fake news artists are and what they believe. A book entitled Memoirs, in which he freely admits secretly conspiring for creation and implementation of a new world order. He admits he's part of the secret cabal working to destroy the United States and create a new world order. The following quote is from page 405 of Rockefeller's book, and it says, "Some even believe we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political economic structure. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it." Rockefeller further reveals the journalistic organizations whose mission it is to engage in the furtherance of fake news. And this reads, "I am grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion." And then there's an editor's note here that says, in other words, these MSM entities have engaged in fake news for almost 40 years. If this is not an admission of fake news guilt, I do not know what is. Does that mean that Facebook, Google, and Twitter will be censoring and blocking the Washington Post, New York Times, and any other publication that supported the fake news of David Rockefeller and his merry band of globalists? It's their mission to protect these entities from exposure from organizations in the independent media. But wait, the globalist fake news does not stop there. Rockefeller further impinges the fake news industry we call the mainstream media. And that reads, "We are grateful. It would have been impossible for us to develop our planet for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during these years. But the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries." And that was David Rockefeller to the Trilateral Commission in 1991. It says it doesn't get much more fake than these admissions by one of the more prominent leaders of the NWO. And then there's a message to Google and Facebook. It says, "To the allegations that I engaged in charge that there is international and cabal designated to destroy America's sovereignty, further enslave the people of the United States, and establish a tyrannical one world government that is both brutal and autocratic, I plead guilty to exposing this plot. The globalists used to refute my message by merely branding me a conspiracy theorist and mentally ill. Unfortunately for the globalists, this kind of labeling no longer carries the the sting that it once did. The failure of this labeling, designed to discredit truth tellers, the past election where the independent media combined with Donald Trump's leadership turned a mind-controlled nation into a group of conspiracy fact-checkers, and the pejorative term conspiracy theorists lost its effectiveness. Now that we are witnessing the backlash to the effectiveness of the independent media through the introduction of a new label, fake news site, in which the participants and their work are worthy of complete censorship in order to protect the public from the truth. To this allegation, I call BS. The fact is that the candidate lost, and Google and Facebook are moving to restore the control once enjoyed by the mainstream media. The independent media is causing MSM to lose both money and control. Fake news allegations is a desperate last-ditch attempt to regain their lost control. Only 6% of the population trusts CNN, Fox, ABC, and the rest of them. The globalists are losing control. Americans will unite around this issue, wound this beast." And this article goes on for a ways, so if you'd like to read the rest of it, you're welcome to pull it up and read the rest of it for yourself. All these URLs are in the description of the video. further research or look at whatever videos that they happen to have in them, or read the rest of the articles or whatever. So some of these I have to cut a little short for you. The next one is off of Natural News, and it says, America cannot heal until we stop hate. This one says, I'm asking myself when I'm going to return Natural News to its usual format of covering health, nutrition, and disease prevention. I'm realization that the left-wing media is now single greatest cause of psychological stress and mental illness in America. While Hillary Clinton's campaign slogan was "Stronger Together," the mainstream media has decided to pursue a campaign of division, sabotage, and hate. It's unacceptable and it must be stopped. It is now obvious to me that America cannot heal until we stop the left-wing media hate machine. The same media outlets that heaped unlimited praise upon Barack Obama for 8 years have set their sights on sabotaging the Trump administration even before it starts, vomiting out vicious on Donald, Melania, and even the who they have absurdly labeled as anti-Semite without a shred of evidence to support the accusation. As we've known for many years, every left-wing mainstream media outlet, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, USA Today, ABC News, etc., is told exactly what to report each day. To destroy Trump have come from on high, and the prostitutes obediently play their twisted roles in deceiving and psychologically traumatizing American voters to achieve the political goals of their puppet masters. It's punishment, you see, for electing someone other than Hillary Clinton, the nauseating war criminal that globalists desperately wanted in power. An international terrorism money man, the most heinous hate machines in America, such as Slate, Move On, and Black Lives Matter. To help America heal, it will be important for Donald Trump to issue an international arrest warrant for George Soros, funding BLM executions of police officers in Dallas, among other violent crimes carried out by his minions. The New York Times recently announced their editorial posture during the Trump administration will be framed to discredit and destroy the Trump presidency. At every turn, left-wing hate publishers are going to be dividing America, sowing discord, and maximizing the psychological trauma of the masses. It's all scripted and deliberate. It's in the new role of the mainstream media to be destroyers of words. As Mark Dice explains in a video that's here in this on this site, if you want to take a look at that at your leisure, he says media just went berserk over Donald Trump having dinner with his own family. Anderson CIA Cooper on CNN went on to attack over this event with an attitude of condemnation that would have never been applied to Barack Obama for having a family dinner. Listen as CNN condemns Trump for having dinner, insanely claiming he's violating national security. Rachel Maddow also has a total meltdown over the dinner, which is unbelievable. Mainstream media has, in effect, become a festering nest of journo-terrorism, a term coined to explain how left-wing journalists are actually psychoterrorists pretending to be journalists. And this one goes on for quite a ways as well, so I'll let you read the rest of that at your leisure if you feel so inclined. But that hits the high points on that one. For you is off of the freethoughtproject.com, and it says Julian Assange says Google is not what it seems. The CIA cannot. And this is a rather lengthy article. I'll try to hit some of the high points in it. It says Julian Assange cautioned all of us a while back in the vein of revelations similar to those provided by Edward Snowden that Google, the insidious search engine with the reputation for powering humanities research, plays the dark hand role in furthering U.S. imperialism and foreign policy agendas. Now that, as WikiLeaks founder faces days by a Swedish special prosecutor over rape allegations inside his Ecuadorian embassy haven in London today, and particularly in wake of the presidential election, Assange's warning Google is not what it seems. Visited under intense scrutiny by the U.S. State Department. Controversial WikiLeaks publications of leaked documents in 2011, Assange first met Google's executive chairman, then CEO Eric Schmidt, who approached the political refugee under the premise of a new book. Schmidt, whose worth Forbes estimate exceeds $11 billion, partnered with Council on Foreign Relations and State Department veteran Jared Cohen for work tentatively titled The Empire of the Mind and asked Assange for an interview. And so they talk about that here for a little ways in this article. Then I'll skip on down a little bit. It says this cult government and non-government insiders have firm believed in their goals should be unassailable, unquestionable motivator for American imperialism. Whatever the U.S. thinks best as the benevolent superpower, so should the rest of the non-evil world. They will tell you that open-mindedness is a virtue. Objectives that challenge the exceptionalist drive at the heart of American foreign policy will remain invisible to them, Assange wrote when Google met WikiLeaks. This is the impenetrable banality of the impenetrable banality of don't be evil. They are doing good. That is a problem. Says, and then it goes on for ways, and it says, ironically enough, WikiLeaks published 3 years later the Global Intelligent Files, internal emails from private security from Stratford, Cohen, and Google's true depth of influence became strikingly apparent. Assange wrote this. It says, Cohen's directive appeared to cross over from public relations and corporate responsibility work into active corporate intervention in foreign affairs at a level that is normally reserved for state. Cohen could be wryly named Google's director of regime change. According to the emails, he was trying to plant his fingerprints on some of the major historical events in the contemporary Middle East. He could be placed in Egypt during the revolution, meeting with let's see, what is that? Wael Goman, looks like, employee whose arrest and imprisonment hours later would make him a PR-friendly symbol for the uprising in the Western press. Meetings had been planned in Palestine and Turkey, both of which emails were killed by the senior Google leadership as too risky. Before he met with me, Cohen was planning a trip to the edge of Iran in Azerbaijan, or as I can't pronounce these foreign names for crying out loud, Azerbaijan, I guess it is, I don't know, to engage in Iranian communities closer to the border as part of Google Ideas project on recessive societies. Google is getting White House and State Department support and air cover. In reality, they are doing things the CIA cannot do. Cohen is going to get himself kidnapped or killed. Might be the best thing to happen to expose Google's covert role in foaming uprisings. To be blunt, the U.S. government can then disavow knowledge, and Google is left holding the shitbag. So goes on and on and on. If you want to read the rest of that one, that's a pretty interesting article there. Apparently, Google and its hierarchy are into a whole lot of things. Mercy. Things are not as innocent as you might suspect. The next one we have here is off of BizPac Review. New York City's fire department has forbidden firehouses from displaying photos of Trump, our next U.S. president. Now, before I read this, I'm going to interject something here. A whole lot of people are jumping up and down and happy and or sad, as the case may be, with the snowflakes and all that, that Trump's going to be the president. Now, it's not exactly a done deal yet because the electoral votes have to be turned in. The Electoral College has to turn in their votes, and then those votes have to be counted. And they don't have to turn them in the way the states have voted. And it is a secret vote, so nobody's going to know if these people decide to flop their vote. Instead of voting for Trump, they turned it in for Clinton. Nobody's going to know who did it. And the rumors are flying that George Soros is trying to buy these electoral college people in order to get the votes flipped for Hillary to be declared the president. So it's not a done deal yet. And I'm finding it very interesting that things like this are going on in New York City with the fire department, and they're being told, don't put up pictures of Trump. Why is that? Let me read this article to you, and maybe it'll become a little clearer. It says, the City of New York's fire department has forbidden its firehouses from displaying photos or materials related to President-elect Donald Trump. Department officials sent a memo to its firehouses this week that instructed them to remain out of the political scene and out of the political field because of the hotly contested election race between Trump and his vanquished rival Hillary Clinton, the New York Post reported. The note might have made more sense if it was still a political battle going on for the White House. Only the FDNY wouldn't want democratically elected president of America hanging in the firehouse, said one firefighter who asked to remain anonymous. The firehouse is supposed to be the symbol of America. It's hard to believe when you can't post a picture of the president. The FDNY told the Post that the memo was sent in response to complaints it received about one of its trucks riding around with a Trump mask on its grill. Posting of these materials is not in compliance with regulations, the memo read. Please make sure apparatus and quarters are clear of this material. The note left some confused as pictures of previous presidents hang in the firehouse now. They have pictures of George Bush standing at the World Trade Center pile with a megaphone, source told the Post. FDNY posts pictures all the time when Barack Obama wants or visits a firehouse. FDNY officially posts photos of him shaking hands with people and smiling, no problem there. But FDNY spokesman Jim Long hinted that the instruction was specific to this particular time. The message specifically to this time was to remain out of the political scene and out of the political field, he said. The message went out this week. Now you got to wonder why. I mean, couldn't they just call up the firehouse where they had the mask on the grill and say, hey, don't do that. You want to hang a picture on the wall, that that kind of thing is fine, but keep that stuff off the trucks. It just seems odd to me that they would come out and make such a statement. And this is not a done deal. We haven't made it to the inauguration yet. This next one is off of conservativetribune.com. It says, breaking, Mexico freaks issues emergency orders to prepare for mass exodus, or try that again, mass U.S. exodus after Trump elected. The electoral victory of Republican President-elect Donald Trump has foreign government officials scrambling to figure out what to do next in preparation for his proposed changes, perhaps none more so than those in the Mexican government. Trump ran and was elected in part on a promise to secure the southern border of the United States and clamp down on illegal immigration flowing north from Mexico, a promise it would appear he intends to keep by all accounts. According to France 24, this has officials in the Mexican Foreign Ministry issuing emergency orders to their diplomats in the U.S. to prepare themselves for dealing with an increased upheaval of illegal immigrants already inside America. A statement from the Foreign Ministry revealed that the officials gathered over the weekend to analyze the result of the U.S. election and discuss concrete actions concerning the future of bilateral relationship between Mexico and the U.S. One of those concrete actions that Minister Claudia Ruiz Massieu suggested was necessary when were preparations by Mexican consulates in the U.S. for a surge of Mexican citizens seeking documentation to remain legally in the United States. The consulates were also warned to be on the lookout for fraud, such as con men or criminal groups preying on illegal migrants by selling them fake documents that would not suffice to prove legal status. To be sure, there's a bit of overblown paranoia regarding what Trump will actually do with the estimated 12 million illegal immigrants in America, likely much more than that, as Trump has repeatedly stated that he only intends to deport those illegal immigrants who have committed additional crimes while in the country, 3 million individuals. Regardless, Mexico and other nations that have seen their people migrate legally to the U.S. would be wise to prepare themselves to receive at least some of them back at a date yet to be determined, sometime after January of 2017. So there's that article. The next one I have for you is off of regated.com, and it says 10 election influencers you should know. Media is dead. The mainstream media is dead. Print is dead. Even digital is overrun by assholes like Vox and Gawker. Only election influences still matter. This election was won by influencers who leveraged Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube to shape and give opinions, news, and commentary, and they won. We've curated 10 of our favorite election influencers who helped make this election bearable, winnable, and memorable. Garvin is a Canadian commentator who famously founded Vice Media back in the 1990s. It grew tremendously, and McInnes left in 2008. Gawker applauded his exit. Gavin, I guess it is, Gavin, has since transformed into a sort of hashtag base dad, an advocate of the particular, or of the patriarchy. He expresses his love for masculinity and parenting in unusual ways, like triggering a redhead social justice tyranny on YouTube or getting his stuff out of the way before Hambray got assassinated. Millennials may not know Roseanne, but and we're talking about Roseanne Barr, but she has been in the forefront of cultural commentary and critique long before Amy Schumer showed up to crack fat jokes. Roseanne's Twitter unapologetically says women will never crack the hashtag glass ceiling of hashtag patriarchy. Get a clue. No woman should want to no woman should want to sit atop that heap. And it says we're convinced she's the most red-pilled celebrity out there. And then another tweet says, hey, hashtag Hillary lost because she disrespected the flyover states and called hashtag Donald a sexist while she killed babies and hashtag ate them with hashtag Podesta. Then it says Mike Chernovich. Mike is a beast. He's rugged and fearless Twitter influencer, author, and commentator. He'll probably be remembered as the leader for thousands of Trump supporters on Twitter and Periscope these past few months. He's successfully built a network of fans, tipsters, citizen journalists who appreciate his sincere writing and self-improvement books. Conceited, but he's a big-hearted guy who earned all the influence he has. His books are a must-read for anyone intimidated or bullied by leftist mobs, or or simply seek the confidence to be better. We interviewed him a few months back, but his Rubin Report video interviewer takes the cake, and they got that video here if you'd like to take a look at that. Then there's Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo is famous. Everyone knows him as that troll, but few have taken the time to hear his well-reasoned and sincere politics. Milo is an empathetic, virtuous troll who seeks to combat internet censorship, leftist fascism, and social justice insanity like body positivity. Twitter permanently banned him after he irritated special snowflake Leslie Jones on Twitter, but his influence lives on during his second leg of Dangerous Faggot Tour. His outrageous provocations by design wake up the left and teach that feelings don't matter in the grand scheme of life. And they've got a video of him here if you'd like to take a look at that. Ben Garrison, Ben's hilarious comics kept patriotic Americans sane throughout this election season. His attention to detail and persuasive illustrations rippled throughout social media. Attempts to smear him as racist or bigoted abounded throughout the election, but he's actually just a nice guy who doesn't like elitists. Despite left attempts to ruin Ben's life, he's still adored by Trump fans worldwide. And a quote says, "Do an internet search of my name and you'll see me in Nazi uniform, which can be a tad off-putting to potential commercial art clients. I lost a lot of work as I now must try to make a living drawing the cartoons and selling paintings." And there's some of his artwork here if you want to take a look at it. It's funny stuff. Then there's one called that guy T. That guy T is a popular YouTuber who I watch to get educated. Seriously, this guy is a brilliant and handsome genius. He covers free market capitalism, libertarianism, social justice, and racism. He's not an outright Trump supporter, but he's widely informed and open-minded. The fact he's black and speaks with Edward Snowden and Bitcoin posters in the background is icing on the cake because liberals can't deal with black people not worshiping their doctrine. The alt-right really about video is probably the funniest explanation of this emerging political movement on the web, and that's on here if you want to see that. Blair White is personal favorite for me, and it says, I'm gay, so when I discovered her YouTube, I actually jumped up and down. She's trans male to female who considers it her mission in life to trigger leftists. And a quote here from her says, "Don't even try to tell me that my destiny wasn't to piss off leftists. I was born with the last name White." And there's a video of hers here. It says, "We interviewed Blair a few months back, but watching her chat with Alex Jones was an intriguing clash of words with heaps of common ground." The next one is Stefan Molyneux. Stefan has been red pilling the world for years. His 2010 video, "The Story of Your Enslavement," has over 5 million views and clearly articulates the mental prisons the masses live under. And that video's here. So Stefan is both brilliant and dedicated to creating long-form arguments for various political philosophies. His YouTube channel is a goldmine of insights and talks, and his Twitter is a non-stop barrage of quips and colorful commentary on the left. And here's a quote of his. It says, "Every time Donald Trump treats the mainstream media like the scum that they are, an angel gets its wings." And then there's Bill Mitchell. Bill Mitchell's former, or try that again. Bill Mitchell is the founder of Your Voice Radio. He dedicated his time and effort to Trump supporters on social media by giving them the voice they don't have. With over 50,000 listeners, Mitchell made serious impact. He also called the election earlier than the rest with sheer confidence that Donald Trump would win. On election day, he was 100% sure Donald Trump would win, and Bill called major states well before mainstream news did. Winning the presidency was merely the starting line. Long, hard fight from here, but just like the White House, will win. And then there's Paul Jones Watson. Paul Joseph Watson. Paul Joseph Watson is a nightmare for leftists. He's smart, a straight white male with blisteringly direct views on populism, censorship, and Islam. Naturally, the left deemed him the face of conspiracy theorists. He makes videos for InfoWars and his own channel, but to capture his full humor, you've got to follow him on Twitter. And then it says, "We know there are many more to mention, from Steven Crowder to Lauren Southern to Baked Alaska. Stay tuned for part 2 and leave suggestions in the comments. So there's that article. I thought that was very interesting, and there's a lot of good videos in that one if you'd like to take a look and educate yourself on who some of these alternate media people are that are, the leaders. The next one that I have for you is off of naturalnews.com. Exclusive. Leftist forces planning takeover of U.S. Capitol building on Inauguration Day to thwart Trump presidency. So, in other words, if the Electoral College does come through and he does get the votes that he's supposed to get and everything keeps rolling the way it's supposed to go, January 20th, we have an inauguration coming up. And apparently there's some people that are planning to U.S. Capitol building on January the 20th. Leftist revolutionaries, infuriated by President-elect Donald J. Trump's victory over Democratic rival Hillary Clinton, are covertly planning the unthinkable, a takeover of the U.S. Capitol building on Inauguration Day in a dramatic attempt to thwart his presidency. Natural News has learned that the plan will have 4 steps. Number 1, it will begin with a concept known as constructive apocalypse, in which left-wing agitators funded by groups financially linked to anarcho-terrorist billionaire George Soros will do everything they can to disrupt the economy. That will include nationwide strikes, picketing and demonstrating at shopping malls, and interrupting any form of commerce possible. Number 2, the hope is to cause so much chaos nationally and in Washington, D.C., that President Obama will be forced to delay the January 20th Inauguration Day. In this vein, there is already a Facebook page inviting people to protest the inauguration, stand against Trump, war, racism, and inequality. And on other social media, hashtags like hashtag DisruptJ20 are trending. Number 3, the radical hard left also plans to actually take over the U.S. Capitol building and physically occupy and hold it until their demands, that Trump and Vice President-elect Mike Pence step aside and allow someone else to be president like Hillary Clinton, are met. Number 4, there has also been some actual discussion of trying to find someone who's willing to risk life in prison or the death penalty to assassinate Trump. In fact, Trump assassination threats are trending and mounting on social media as well. Leftists are refusing to acknowledge the results of a lawful legal election. President-elect Donald Trump is being is being threatened following Tuesday's election with calls through social media for his assassination. And the Secret Service will likely investigate all threats they deem to be credible ones, according to security sources. The posts are mounting and also include calls for Vice President-elect Mike Pence's death, and the use of hashtag assassinate Trump hashtag has not been banned on Twitter, drawing outcry from many Trump supporters. And incredible as all of this may sound, there can be no doubt that since Trump triumphed on Election Day, the angry left has exploded with violent rage that has not been directed at a president-elect since Abraham Lincoln. In that vein, calls from activists in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington State are already mulling ways to secede from the Union rather than remain united through a Trump presidency, as the country did through 2 Obama terms and would have if Clinton had won. As what we have learned suggests, there could be some very dark days ahead for our republic. That said, inaugurations are always marked by extra heavy security, and Trump will be no different. Natural News has learned that as many as 1,000 Marines, as well as members of other military branches, will be on station for the event. In addition, the bulk of Washington, D.C., approximately 3,800 police officers, as well as the Capitol Police, FBI, and other security personnel, will be on duty. The number of security personnel is very likely expected to dramatically rise anyway, given the rancor and this this man decisiveness of just ended presidential campaign. Now expect that number to rise even more significantly. Natural News has also learned there will be groups on hand ready to help support local law enforcement officials and troops in their efforts to keep crowds under control and secure the inauguration. One of them, sources said, is Bikers for Trump. Other patriotic Americans are also very likely to want to be on hand on Inauguration Day if it happens. But insiders are urging that anyone who wants to attend the inauguration as means of providing the president-elect with human shield should arrive unarmed, no firearms or other weapons at all, and in regular civilian clothing, no camouflage gear, etc. As others have reported, groups that are funded in large part by Soros were responsible for disrupting Trump campaign events throughout his candidacy by using paid thugs to harangue, harass, and even attack Trump supporters. But now that Trump has emerged victorious, it appears that American leftists are not about to accept the lawful results. And we are planning not only to disrupt the ascension to the White House, but the democratic process altogether. This is a developing story. So there you have that information. Very interesting. The next one we have is off of regated.com. I don't usually pay a whole lot of attention to things that any of these celebrities have to say, but I thought this was an interesting article that I'd bring to you. Scott Baio tells liberal celebrities to pack their bags and move to Canada. You might remember him as Joni Loves Chachi or Happy Days. Scott Baio. Actor Scott Baio tells liberal celebrities to pack their bags. This comes after a swarm of celebrities promised to leave the country if Donald Trump won. Scott Baio, known for his role as Chachi Arcola in Happy Days, has had enough. In a video posted to Facebook, he said, "I promise you something. If you want to watch the best television that's on television right now, watch MSNBC. You'll have a ball. It's amazing. The crying, the literal crying, the anger, the rage." And the video's here if you want to watch it. It says Baio has, or Baio, I guess it is. Baio has been very outspoken Trump supporter within Hollywood, one of the very few. Wearing a t-shirt that says Canada with a maple leaf, he tells Lena Dunham and others who vowed to leave, "You can pick these up in any gift shop in Canada and wear them proudly." Wearing a t-shirt that says Canada with a maple leaf, he tells Lena Dunham and others who vowed to leave, "You can pick these up at any gift shop in Canada and wear them proudly." Hollywood is far from shifting its liberal agenda, but this is a promising start to a more politically diverse industry. So I just thought that was a nice little short, quick article and give you a chuckle. The next one we have is off of Regated, and it says Mike Pence removes all lobbyists from transition team. In a stunning change of pace, each lobbyist that was previously invited to the transition team were buffed out on Tuesday evening. Vice President-elect Mike Pence formally signed documents that put him in charge of the transition team, and officials insisted the 10-week effort to build an administration is on schedule. In one of his first moves, Mr. Pence ordered the removal of all lobbyists from the transition team, said one transition team member with knowledge of his decisions. Why isn't this bigger news? Donald Trump and Mike Pence are absolutely practicing what they preach. It is a long-standing tradition on the Hill that, for better or for worse, lobbyists deserve to run your platform. However, the Trump team are following through with their promise to drain the swamp by cutting these men out. Mike Rogers, the former national security senior advisor to the Trump transition team, who was abruptly cut out last night, posted his resignation statement on his website, and it reads this. It was a privilege to prepare and advise the policy, personnel, and agency action teams on all aspects of the national security portfolio during the initial pre-election planning phase. A strong foundation for the new transition team leadership as they move into the post-election phase, which naturally is incorporating the campaign team in New York who drove President-elect Trump to an incredible victory last Tuesday. Mike Rogers, among others, did not align with the mission statement of the Trump team to drain the swamp. Sources report that every single person brought in by Chris Christie was being ousted, perhaps a strategy that was used to identify and rid the team of political insiders and lobbyists. Gone now are the members of his transition team with ties to Wall Street firms and other corporations. If the Trump team is truly to drain the swamp on the Hill, this was clearly the first painful step that they must take to get there. So I was really happy to hear that they are holding true to their promises. The next one here is off Infowars.com, and it says, report, anti-Trump protesters block ambulance. Father of 4-year-old girl dies. And I read this on Doug Krantz's show yesterday. Thought I'd bring it here to my show and read it to you. It's amazing that these people are getting away with foolishness. This says, a father of 4-year-old girl died after anti-Trump protesters blocked roads and delayed an ambulance from reaching the hospital, according to an anguished message posted on Facebook. And it reads, I have to un-Facebook for a few days. I had a patient die during a transfer last night because our ambulance was stopped by protesters and had to drive an extra 45 minutes around the blocked roads, the anonymous post reads. It says, I can't today. They give their effing safety pins to my patient's fatherless 4-year-old daughter, the post concludes. And there's a copy of the post here if you want to pull that up to read it for yourself. It says, the mention of safety pins is in reference to the campaign started by anti-Trump protesters to wear safety pins to show support for the vulnerable and to express the fear that Trump supporters may physically or emotionally abuse minorities, immigrants, women, and members of the LGBT community. The report of anti-Trump protesters blocking the ambulance has not been verified, but it's not unlikely given that anti-Trump demonstrators have blocked roads in numerous cities and states, including the I-94 in Minneapolis, the I-5 in Portland, numerous freeways in Los Angeles, a major highway in Phoenix, and the I-95 in Miami. During the DNC-sponsored violent shutdown of Donald Trump's rally in Chicago back in March, anti-Trump agitators were caught on camera blocking an ambulance outside the UIC arena. In some instances, irate motorists are refusing to be stopped. One video shows anti-Trump protester on the ground after being clipped by a car traveling at high speed. I'm surprised anybody stops for him at all. I mean, how dare they hold up traffic? That's not peaceful protesting. Peaceful protesting is marching up and down the street with your signs, maybe making some chants or whatever. You don't accost people. You don't disrupt traffic. What on earth? Totally out of their minds. The next one here is off of conservativetribune.com. It says, outrage as leftist source of Trump swastika graffiti exposed. And there's an update that this starts out with. It says, previous version of this story erroneously described 2 students involved as Jewish in accordance with our original source, the Gateway Pundit. That description appears to be unfounded. We also neglected to note that the events described took place in March, not after the presidential election. In accordance with our desire to publish only the truth, we have updated the story with these corrections. We apologize for the errors. Okay, this is how it reads. When liberals heard about swastikas painted on a campus church with the word Trump, they went wild. But when America learned who was really behind the hate graffiti, libs were completely embarrassed. 2 students were charged in March with the hate crime after vandalizing the campus church at Northwestern University with swastikas, making it look as if supporters of President-elect Donald Trump were responsible for the offensive graffiti. According to the Chicago Tribune, Anthony Morales, age 19, and Matthew Kafker, age 18, were both charged with hate crime and vandalism after they came forward and admitted to spray painting the church with the highly offensive symbols. In addition to spray painting the swastikas, the thugs also painted penises in several places inside the chapel, one above the word God in the hallway, one in the stairway, and one on a piano. To make matters worse, the two painted an expletive aimed at African Americans along with Trump in a hallway. They painted a derogatory word for homosexuals on another wall, and they used their spray paint to cover the faces of photos of Muslim students. The two vandals spent Saturday night in jail and were sent to court, where Cook County Judge Peggy Champas reprimanded them for their juvenile actions. These allegations are disgusting to me, Champas reportedly stated to the boys during the bond hearing. I don't know if any of you know how lucky you are to be at Northwestern University. The men were caught on security camera breaking into the chapel on Friday evening and later both gave written statements admitting the horrific act. The bail was set at $50,000. This is what liberals, not Trump supporters, have been doing since the Republican primaries, yet they are supposed to be the peaceful ones. The next one that we have here is off the naturalnews.com, and it says, federal government to lease out Ohio's only national forest to fracking interests. It says the BLM is preparing to open up bidding for fracking operations in Ohio's only national forest. An online auction is planned for December the 13th that will accept bids of as little as $2 per acre for the first 1,600 acres or of 40,000 acres to be leased to oil and gas developers in Wayne National Forest. And if you're unfamiliar with where that is, if you know where Cincinnati, Ohio is, in the southern part there, being the southwestern part of Ohio, this is about, I'd say, 50 miles east of Cincinnati. It says then opponents of the leasing scheme claim that the decision was based on flawed environmental assessments that underestimated the potential environment impact on the forest. From the True Activists, it says, following its final environmental assessment of the effects of fracking on Wayne National Forest, the BLM found that no significant impact would take place if fracking was allowed to occur in the area. However, the environmental assessment ignored fracking's threats to drinking water as well as its effect on air quality and climate. The assessment also fails to consider the cumulative effects of fracking in the forest, and the assessment's findings are based on research that is over 11 years old. BLM claims fracking will have no direct effects on Wayne National Forest. In the section of the assessment addressing the anticipated environmental effects of the fracking operation, the BLM claims that there will be no direct efforts from leasing on air resource climates, plant and animal habitat populations, geology and mineral resources, soil or water resources, and water quality. Clearly, this is either a head in the sand appraisal of the situation or a bald-faced lie. It's impossible for any clear-thinking person to imagine that fracking will have no direct effects on Wayne National Forest. But the BLM is famous for serving private interests as well as its own. The agency makes money from leasing millions of acres of federal land to the fossil fuel industry. Opposition to the scheme has so far been largely unsuccessful. The agency has chosen to ignore 17,000 public comments voicing concerns over the impact of fracking in Wayne National Forest. There are accusations that the rights of the local Native American minority and low-income populations living nearby are also being ignored. Opponents say this constitutes a violation of 1994 Executive Order 12898, which addresses environmental justice issues. But time's running out. Currently, and this is a quote, it says, currently less than 30 days remain for opponents of the planned land leasing to file a formal protest against the auction. An attorney for the Ohio Environmental Council has said that their organization will appeal the BLM's decision on the grounds that environmental concerns were not adequately considered. Fracking impact only now beginning to be fully understood. Considering the fact that the extent of the negative effects of fracking on the environment and human health have only recently begun to be fully recognized, it would seem that basing an environmental assessment on information more than a decade old would be adequate grounds for such an appeal. A Johns Hopkins School of Medicine study published this year revealed a number of previously unrecognized adverse health effects associated with fracking, including migraines, nasal and sinus problems, and fatigue. And those are just a few of the effects of fracking on human health. Pollution from fracking in our air and water is causing an increased cancer rate, as well as heart disease and neurological disorders. Fracking poisons our food, our air and water supplies, kills wildlife, causes earthquakes, and destroys ecosystems. It will be interesting to see how President-elect Trump manages to live up to his campaign promise of deregulating the gas and oil industry without also posing great risk to the public and the environment. He is correct in condemning the regulatory system. It certainly needs an overhaul, but it will take an extraordinary leadership skill to strike a balance between economic interests and those of public health and environmental protection. So the BLM is not just out west, it's in the Midwest as well. The next one we have here is off of space.com, and it says top 10 Leonid meteor shower facts. Each year around November the 17th to the 18th, the Leonid meteor shower peaks, offering up several shooting stars an hour. In some years, there are dramatic bursts in which many meteors rain down every minute. It says, learn what's behind this fickle show. And it's a series of pages here, so I'll page through them and tell you some of this. Leonids are ancient. Leonids are ancient history. Most of the shooting stars in the annual Leonid meteor shower are the result of tiny bits of material the size of sand grains or peas, blown off a comet and wafting through space for centuries. The Leonids are spawned by the comet Tempel-Tuttle. Every 33 years, it rounds the sun and then goes back to the outer solar system. On each passage across Earth's orbit, Tempel-Tuttle lays down another trail of debris, each a slightly different location than the previous trails. Over time, the debris trails spread out. Each year, Earth passes through different streams and different parts of the streams, creating bursts of activity and slack periods in the nights surrounding the event's peak. A Leonid meteor is it's a tongue twister for me. I don't know why. A Leonid meteor is not a piece of space debris. Hey, wait a minute. I read, yes, I know. We all conveniently think of meteors as bits of space debris, but it's a white lie. One will keep committing for this fact. For the record, these bits of space debris are properly termed meteoroids. When a meteoroid enters the atmosphere, the light phenomenon that results in a meteor, according to the American Meteor Society. So another way, a shooting star is a meteor phenomenon, not a chunk of something. It also means shooting stars aren't actually stars, of course, but I refuse to give up that term too. And just to finish this fruitless but mildly interesting discussion of shooting star jargon, it says, quickly please, so we can move on to the next fact. A meteorite is a natural object of extraterrestrial origin, meteoroid, the passage through the atmosphere and hits the ground. Kids love this one. What do you call it if it misses the ground? A meteor. Wrong, of course. So there's a little pun for you. And the next one says Leonoids don't hit the ground. Your meteoroid, if you prefer, vaporizes most of them high in the air. Even larger space rocks, up to basketball size, typically burn up and don't survive to the ground. Though a handful, those made of dense material, do. However, comet material, the stuff of the Leonoids, is fluffy, astronomers say. It's fragments and it disintegrates easily. Amongst the Leonoids, there are no basketballs. We're talking about sand grains mixed with a few marbles, all fluffy. Most meteors start lighting up until about 60 miles high. Leonids, for reasons you'll soon learn, move quickly and disintegrate the beginnings of their demise more quickly. Leonids have been spotted turning on the juice above 87 miles, where the air is really thin. A Leonoid doesn't stand a chance of reaching the surface no matter what you call it. They don't burn up due to friction. The myth, because they rub against air molecules, can be found in many news stories and reference articles about Leonids and meteors in general. In fact, a meteor moves so fast and it is compressed and heated by a phenomenon called pressure. It's the same thing that warms a handheld pump when you work it to fill a bike tire. The heated air, in turn, scorches the meteor. Temperatures can exceed 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's hot. It says you can listen to the Leonids. Meteors leave behind a trail of ionized gas. Sometimes the signal from a distant FM radio station or TV station will bounce off this trail, overcoming the Earth's curvature and city lights and coming in loud and clear. If you know where to tune in, instructions for listening to meteors are here, so you can click a link here and it'll tell you about that. It's on page 6 of this article. It says, on rare occasions, large meteors reportedly generate loud whistling or buzzing sounds that arrive to Earth witnesses before they see the glowing fireballs in the sky. Travel faster than light, but scientists are perplexed as to what's going on. More of these electrophonic sounds, as they're called, is here. So you can click a link and it'll play you some of the sounds that they make. Leonids strike the moon too and are visible from Earth. Since the moon is the same region of space as planet Earth, it too is showered by small particles. However, there's a difference. The moon has no atmosphere to gobble up the grains. So the tiny bits of comet debris slam into the surface and explode. Seismic recorders left on the moon in the Apollo era recorded these Leonid strikes in the 1970s, and scientists first confirmed they occurred with visual observations during the 1999 Leonid meteor shower. In 2001, 3 separate skywatchers saw one of these lunar Leonids using telescopes and looking for such events. They observed a brief flash of light equal to the brightness to dim a star, or try that again, to a dim star that would be visible to the naked eye under reasonably dark skies. But how can a particle no larger than a marble and weighing only a few ounces create light visible from 238,000 miles? Scientists have figured this out in recent years. Leonids travel so fast relative to the Earth and Moon. We'll discuss this power in a moment. That the impact per unit mass is 10,000 times greater than dynamite. Moon dust for a few yards around the impact area is vaporized. The Leonids typically produce a shooting star every few minutes during. Interesting, sure, but imagine what people must have thought in 1833, back before they even knew why the Leonids were happening. For several hours over the United States that year, thousands of meteors at a time rained down. That's more shooting stars in a few minutes than you'll probably see in your whole life. The display was so bright it woke people up. Here's some of here's what some of them thought, and there's a link you can click on to read more about that. And it says Comet Temple Tuttle keeps getting lost. 33 years to go around the sun compared to 1 year for Earth. It goes away out there and tends to get lost. Comet Temple Tuttle, responsible for Leonids, gets lost a lot. It also gets found now and then. Temple Tuttle was discovered by William Temple in 1965 and independently by Horace Tuttle in early 1866. Astronomers then figured out it had been observed in 1366 and in 1699 too. An orbit was calculated and then determined that the comet was connected to the annual Leonid meteor shower. Nobody saw Temple Tuttle again until 1965. However, then on March 4th of 1997, armed with great orbital data, Karen Meach, Oliver Honyot, and James Bauer at the University of Hawaii rediscovered the comet yet again. Temple Tuttle will next return the inner solar system again in 2031. Unlike many meteoroids that Earth encounters, the stuff that Leonids is orbiting the sun in the opposite direction as Earth, so it strikes Earth's upper atmosphere at a higher relative speed, more than 160,000 miles per hour. A typical bullet from a rifle moving at what seems like blinding speed. It's got something trying to play here. We get that shut down. Okay. Well, now it's got something else trying to play. Let's see. Have we got it stopped or not? I think so. All right. We were talking about the speed here. Let's see. A typical bullet from a rifle moving at what seems to be blinding speed creeps along by comparison at just 2,240 miles an hour. And they're saying that thing goes at 160,000 miles an hour. Wow. Meteor that becomes visible to the average viewer on Earth is typically about 0.6 millimeters across, less than 1/10 of an inch, or about the size of a sand grain. The energy it produces could light a 100-watt light bulb for about 2.5 seconds. Bright fireballs, for which the Leonids are known, can be generated by something the size of a marble, about 9 millimeters in diameter. The power it creates exceeds 1 million, or about the same punch as a small car moving at 60 miles an hour. Leonids are time capsules and maybe more. You can scan for Leonids, consider what you're looking for. Tiny bits of primordial material generated in the cataclysms that were, or that was, our solar system's birth. Leonids are bits of comet debris, and scientists think comets formed along with solar systems generation some 4.6 ago, when the sun condensed out of a cloud of hydrogen, helium, and some dust. Temple Tuttle built itself out of some leftovers and has been looping around the sun ever since. Presumably, it has a heart. Try that again. Presumably, and its heart is pristine until corrupted on each pass by solar radiation that boils some of the comet into space. The streaks light. The streaks of light you'll see as these meteoroids strike the atmosphere probably represent the best glimpse you'll ever have of brimstone that ruled the solar system in early days before the planet had swept most of the leftovers up. Back then, stuff like small and large hit Earth all the time. I say probably see because there are some grander examples of the house cleaning to come. Comets like Temple Tuttle do strike Earth now and then, and always will. That's an event you don't want to witness, and you probably won't have to. No comet or asteroid are known to be on collision courses with Earth right now. Odds are a big one that won't hit for a long time. Meanwhile, the ephemeral lineoids or meteors are prized targets of scientific study, and scientists have used airplanes to examine a few at pretty close range in recent years. What did they find? Nothing less than the seeds of life, precursors to biological activity that might long ago have survived inside a comet during a plunge into Earth's initially barren womb. Yes, you may be related in a distant way to the streaks of light that grace the early morning sky each November. And it finishes up by giving me nothing on the last page. Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, so there's information on the meteor shower. So you should be able to get out there and take a view at some of that. It says science of arrival off of life science. Well, let me take a drink here. See if I can get my tongue untied. Okay, it says, this is off of livescience.com. It says, science of arrival. If aliens call, does humanity have a plan? The science fiction movie Arrival, which opened in theaters last weekend, poses tantalizing questions about how humans might make contact and eventually communicate with intelligent aliens. The much-hyped film has reviewed people's interest in the search for intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, but what would happen if humans really did make contact with an intelligent alien civilization? If ET calls, is there a plan? The answer is yes and no, said astronomer Seth Shostak, who leads efforts to detect radio signals from extraterrestrial civilizations at the SETI Institute in Mountain View, California. There are some protocols that an unfortunate name, and it makes them sound more important than they are, Shostak told Live Science. In the 1990s, Shostak chaired a committee of the International Academy of Astronauts, called the IAA, that prepared and revised version of the post-detention protocols for researchers who watch for possible alien transmissions using radio telescopes, a field known as SETI, short for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The protocols were first drawn up in the 1980s to help scientists in the United States and Soviet Union share information about any potential SETI signals. But Shostak explained the SETI post-detection protocols are guidelines for governments and scientists rather than global action plan for dealing with alien contact. They say if you pick up a signal, check it out, tell everybody, and don't broadcast any replies without international consultation, whatever that means. He said, but that's all the protocol says, and they have no force of law. The United Nations took a copy of the early protocols and put them in a file drawer somewhere, and that's as official as they ever got. In the movie Arrival, spaceships land in several cities around the world, and linguists, portrayed by actress Amy Adams, and and physicist, played by actor Jeremy Renner, are recruited as part of an international effort to try to communicate with the aliens and find out why they're here. In real life, apart from protocol dictating that researchers should share news about SETI signals with other astronomers around the world, Shostak said he is not aware of any government-level plans or established procedures in case of an alien contact, whatever form it might take. There really are no men in black, shadowy government investigators of UFO lore depicting the comedy sci-fi movie series starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. If the government could afford the Men in Black, then they could afford to support SETI, Shellstock joked. But the U.S. government has shown no interest in SETI research so far. He said, it's not a government program, so they have nothing to do with it. I would love to see some interest from them, but I never have, he added. After one early SETI false alarm, which eventually turned out to be a signal from a European research satellite, the only response was from journalists. In 1997, we got a signal that looked pretty promising for most of the day. We thought it was possibly a real deal, Shostak said. I kept waiting for the Men in Black to show up. They didn't. I kept waiting for the Pentagon to call. I kept waiting for the White House to call. They didn't call. But the New York Times called. And and this goes on about close encounters and calling planet Earth and all that. If you want to read more on that, it's an interesting article. And you know, a little comical too, but there you go. And then this one, I just threw this in for giggles, but it's something that we'll probably never face, those of you that are listening to this broadcast, but it's something to think about. I mean, my mind travels in strange circles. Everybody knows that by now, but it's offspace.com, and it says, how to pee in space and what to do if the toilet breaks. Anything but easy. Going to the bathroom in space is anything but an easy procedure. To explain what happens in the International Space Station and Soyuz spacecraft, Space spoke with veteran astronaut Mike Fossum. The three-time space flyer has spent time working with both types of toilets, particularly when he spent 165 days in space aboard the space station. And there's several pages of that article, and I'm not going to read them. If you want to know what happens in space if the toilet breaks, you can read it for yourself. I've got the URL in the description of the article, so there you go. If you want to check that out and find out for yourself. The last one I have for you is what I call the feel good. And for anybody that's new, I like to always end the broadcast with something a little more upbeat, something that'll make you think, something that'll tug on your heartstrings a little bit, and remind you of the real world, and you know, give you some inspiration. So I'll play this in a screen share. It's a little 5-minute video. I think you'll enjoy it.
Finished about a little over a month of radiation in New Jersey, and we had a little break in between his next round of chemo, which starts on the 22nd of December. So him and my wife just flew back here 2 days ago. He's still not feeling that great. Today's the first day he actually kind of felt okay. And raise your right hand. You can raise all your hands if you want. Okay. So I trucker. Okay. Honorary firefighter for the County of Maui, Department of Fire and Public Safety, do solemnly swear on this 14th day of December 2015 to fight hard against cancer, to love my parents, my family, and my friends, to continue to be as strong and brave as I have been in the past year, to light up the lives of everyone around me with my smile and laugh, or my spirit, so help me God. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you. Firefighter Dad's gonna pin the badge on trucker.
Okay.
So now I introduce to you Trucker Dukes. He thinks he's a firefighter, especially, I mean, all across, anywhere that he's been, whether it's been New Jersey or New York or here, firefighters have just like embraced him and brought him in. When we go to New York, the fire stations on the Upper East Side, like, know him. They have mac and cheese at the fire stations they keep there for him. So when he comes in, he's like, "Where's mac and cheese?" Well, you can't fight fires without a fire truck. And it's actually...
You want to shoot water? Yeah.
So
Thank you, Chief.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna
Right here.
just right here, right here. Oh, you can tell that, Chief. No, you know.
Fire downtown. Fire downtown.
There we go.
It's big news. There's a fire downtown.
You ready? You're on fire. We're gonna jump in the truck.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
All right.
Fire downtown.
Everybody fucking in the machine. Starts chemo again on the 22nd back in New York. So we're all gonna go back there for Christmas and spend the Christmas holiday out there. I usually watch the rest of the kids here with the help of Erin, our nanny, because I wouldn't be able to deal without her. And then my wife usually stays on the East Coast with Trucker. So, and when she gets those breaks, she tries and comes back home just because it's hard to be away from home. So scans are always kind of a big thing for us because it's when you find out, it's kind of your progress report to see what's going on. When he went in and had his scans, they found out that he relapsed to the brain. So they want to do emergency surgery. So I think it was like we found out it was possibly a Thursday, and it was about a week later we were doing surgery. So he had the brain, and then they put a port in. I don't know if you saw the little port that he's got on the front of his head. So that way that they can give him chemo into his head and the medication into his brain and spinal cord. Because he relapsed in the brain, we're starting a new trial program. The one we were doing before was for kind of his whole body and his main tumor site. But I guess the antibody treatment has a hard time crossing the blood-brain barrier. So that's why they put the port in. And this new treatment gives him the medication directly into where his brain is. Obviously, the Maui Fire Department has been just amazing, and their support, their help, their financial contributions, the time off of work, they've been incredible. So I really, really love you guys, and I'm just really grateful for all the help that you've given our family. And Maui too. I mean, we can't go anywhere now without people going like, "Are you Truckers fans? We were at Target the other day." And this family came up to us and they said, "You're Truckers family, right?" And they gave us a card with a gift with some cash in it and said, "Merry Christmas." You know, it's been incredible.
So there you have that. I thought you'd enjoy that. I mean, you know, no matter how rough your life seems to get, there's always people that have it a little tougher. There's a little 2-year-old boy with cancer, and well, you know, he didn't really understand what was going on at the firehouse, but he was having a good time, and it was important for his family as well to be able to get out there and enjoy their family and enjoy the camaraderie of the fire department and the support that they were given. So if you happen to know of anybody in your area or in your community that you know, could use a little support, a little encouragement, maybe they've got a child that's sick, or maybe they have a elderly relative that they're taking care of, maybe they're a caregiver, they just need a little bit of support. Take a few minutes out of your day and go visit them, or offer to help them in any way, run errands for them, or do a chore for them, or, you know, whatever you can do. Like he said, that one family just handed him a card that had a few dollars in it, you know. And it means so much to know that somebody is thinking about you when you're having issues. Do something nice for somebody today. It'll make you feel better as well. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are. I hope you can get out and stick your feet in the grass, ground yourself, soak up some earth energy, take a deep breath of fresh air, and be glad you woke up above ground. We'll see you later. Bye.